What's up guys, Anfield here. Welcome back to a new video. Hope you're having a great Friday. So today's video is a top 5 list because I haven't done one for a really long time, so I thought it was about time I do another one. And as you'll have seen by the title, I'm sure it's going to be top 5 tier 10 mediums. Now obviously this is highly opinion based, this is my opinion. Feel free to let me know what would go into your list in the comments section. It's always kind of cool to see actually what people feel, especially if it's going to be an outsider tank. I'll be kind of curious to see what you guys pick. But regardless, this is my opinion, so feel free to enjoy and scrutinize. But it's going to be based on not what my favorite tier 10 mediums are, but more like what I think has the highest performance capability, as well as what can carry the best. So a little bit of that, and also some enjoyment to play as well has to go in there, because a top tank has to be fun as well. But mostly it's going to be based on the performance of the tanks, how well can the tanks perform in battles, can they carry, and all that good stuff. So let's get started. Coming in at number 5, we have the STB1, the tier 10 Japanese medium tank. Now I kind of debated with myself for a long time where I wanted to put this tank, because it's very, very good in a lot of ways, but it also has the drawback of the poor accuracy and aim time on the gun, and that can kind of limit you in a lot of ways when you're trying to carry a situation. If the gun is unable to hit the targets, especially when you have to snap at targets in order to hit them, stopping and aiming for a long period of time is not really ideal, especially in clutch situations, which can be quite frustrating. But while the gun handling may be a bit of a letdown, the gun DPM certainly is not. It has the highest of all the 390 alpha mediums, and it really can dish out a lot of damage. And while, okay, your gun handling isn't great, the capacity to deliver that damage is actually quite high due to the fact that the tank is very slender and has great gun depression. So as a result, you can play on hills and take shots where other tanks may be too risky. Say the M48 has really good gun depression, but its turret is huge, easily penned. The STB1 is so slender and streamlined, it can really play on hills very, very well. In fact, to be honest with you, I can't really think off the top of my head a tank that really plays on the hill quite as effectively as an STB1. So it really is quite good at getting out its damage in these kinds of situations, especially because a lot of it is quite close quarter. But just don't expect to be doing any sniping with the STB1 anytime soon. Coming in at number 4, we have a weak tank, the E50M. E50M is a tank I've had for a very long time, and it is so enjoyable to play. But after recent buffs, it was made highly competitive. Before it was quite good, but it was sort of middling of the pack. But now I would actually put the tank quite far up there, number 4 in fact, because the tank's buffs really did improve some of what it was lacking, namely gun depression. The ability of the tank to hit its shots is almost unparalleled in regards to tier 10 mediums. The accuracy is so very good. Now the DPM isn't great, but you're more likely to deliver that damage, especially because the pen is the highest of all the tier 10 mediums, which is really, really nice and easy to work with. The E50M can actually supplement its own damage by ramming people, which is not something a lot of tier 10 mediums can really do at all, and it's a very, very, very useful tool in a lot of situations, especially when facing off against a tank that may have higher DPM than you. You can ram to supplement that damage. Alongside that, you also do have somewhat bounceable armor. It's not perfect, but it does sometimes work, and you can trick people into shooting either your tracks out or bouncing off your upper front plate or something similar to that, and that's really quite useful, especially because a lot of tier 10 mediums really don't have that reliable sort of armor going for them. So the fact that you may bounce 1 or 2 shots, typically not so much against the tier 10s, but certainly against the lower tier tanks, which can mean that your tank will survive a lot longer than perhaps some other paper mediums. Coming in at number 3, we have the TVP, which is the tier 10 Czech autoloading tank with 4 shots but 1.5 second interclip reload. It has the same alpha as the Russian mediums, that's 320. So its actual overall alpha in the clip isn't nearly as impressive as some other tanks, but it does deal a lot of damage very quickly, so for that it makes up for it. Now the problem with the TVP, of course, is its low standard penetration rounds. Not really good, forcing you to use a lot of heat, and even the heat isn't that great, and heat as a round isn't that reliable either. So a little bit of a drawback there, but because you can clip so fast, it's really, really powerful. Now the overall reload is also very quick, so you do get back into the action quite quickly, and a lot of people don't like autoloaders, I suppose, because you do get put out of the action for quite a long time in a lot of cases. Some of them have very long reloads. TVP is also very, very quick, which is quite a big bonus because it can move around and zip around the map quite quickly. Maybe not as fast as some other mediums, but still it's in the upper tier in terms of speed, allowing you to flex around the map and get the damage where you need to. Aside from the penetration, the tank's main drawbacks really come with the size and lack of armor, which is a bit of an issue because you are quite a big target, unlike some tanks which are quite small. TVP, quite a big tank, no armor to protect you, so you are going to get shot up a lot. But the main feature of this tank is speed of the tank and speed of the clip. You can get out so much damage so fast, which can mean that the tank can really turn the tide of a battle, because especially at the end of a battle when tanks aren't so healthy and they're sitting around the 1000 HP range, you can just delete people with this tank, making it so very powerful in a late game stage and a very fun tank to play. And at number 2 we have another auto-loading medium, the Batchat 25T. Now many of you I'm sure would have anticipated this tank to be on the list somewhere. It is of course a legendary tank. The Batchat's been around for quite a long time, including at tier 9 before we had the tier 10 mediums, and I've had it for about as long as that as well. And it is a very powerful tank. I don't get along with it all that well because I kind of get tilted by the gun handling. Maybe I'm spoiled by the 50B. But regardless, the Batchat has many strengths, and there are not many tanks in this game that really do have such a powerful late game carry potential than the Batchat. The clip potential is much higher than say TVP or even any of the tier 10 autoloading heavies, 50B, T57, Kronwagen. The Batchat does more damage. Now it does have a 2.5 second inner clip reload, which does mean you could be exposed, but if you're using your speed to circle people, it's usually not that big of a deal, especially because in a late game situation, rarely do tanks have full HP. So the capacity to do damage is very high, which means it basically can act as a medium killer, especially if you are aiming your shots effectively. It's not great at sniping, but I suppose if you aim in for long enough, it does okay. But that's not really where this tank is best played. This tank is the flanker medium. Go after and hunt down a distracted tank, or you can also play it in the scouting role, which is not something most mediums can claim to do that effectively, as many of them don't even come close to the Batchat's level of camo rating. If you need further convincing of just how good the Batchat is, all it takes is to look at the clan war scene, or even more importantly the esports scene, and see why the top teams pick the Batchat so frequently. It is an incredible vehicle and definitely deserving of a high placing on this list. But it was beaten to the number 1 spot by one tank, although I'm sure many of you may put it at the number 1 spot. I personally feel like this next tank just about beats the Batchat for the top spot. So at the number 1 spot we have the Object 907. Now in this particular case I'm including the 140 and 62A sort of with the 907, but specifically going to be talking about the 907. I could have put those two tanks in the list, but you know it would be kind of awkward to fit them in. They kind of deserve a place, but you know some of these other tanks are also very good, so we're just going to do Russian mediums in general minus the 430. But specifically the 907 is incredible and is the top dog of the Russian mediums in my opinion. It was recently buffed completely unnecessarily. I'm not sure what the decision making behind that was, but the 907 is an incredible tank. It's actually got a faster reload than all of the Russian mediums except for the Object 430, which is kind of a pointless tank because its gun handling is terrible. But the 907 actually can use that DPM, and boy does it use that DPM. There's not many tanks in this game that quite fill the role that the 907 does, because it can get in your face and brawl, unlike some Russian mediums that are a little bit difficult to do that due to the weaker hull armor. But the 907 has very good hull armor, as well as a pretty solid turret, which means that it basically can get in your face and bounce a lot of shots. It tracks a lot of shots. It's the only Russian medium that can really effectively side scrape. You'd have to be a little bit careful because of the ammo rack with a high caliber gun like say a JP100 or something, but most of the time it's okay. The ammo rack was a bit of an issue for the tank, but now we have reusable consumables, so yeah, problem solved in that case. 907 is an incredible vehicle to play though. It really does handle very well. It's very quick, it's very low profile, it plays on hills very well despite not having depression due to the low profile of the tank. So if you can get a little bit of a terrain disparity, you can just sort of surf that ridge all day long and farm people in the 907. The gun handling isn't quite as good as the 140 and the 62A, but you really won't notice the difference all that much. You'll be able to deliver a shot into your opponent almost every 5 seconds. It's an incredible vehicle to play. If you don't own the tank, you should definitely try to work towards it on the next campaign. Similar to other Russian mediums, the tank also has very high concealment rating. In fact, I think it's better than the 140 and the 62A, which is incredibly useful, especially when you have to fall back and double bush snipe some approaching enemies. The Object 907 really is a jack of all trades, an incredibly fun tank to play with a huge carry potential. So that's why it makes the #1 spot on my list. But yeah, that's it for my list, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments section what your top 5 tier 10 medium tanks would be, and I'll catch you next time.